And stepping into this moment. The vastness of this moment. And really feeling the nourishment of stepping into this moment, like this next moment. And letting your breath move with the moments. Exhaling completely, right? Being able to release that moment. And inhale, receiving, softening, allowing, opening and expanding to this moment. And exhaling slowly, easily, completing the exhale, not by pushing things out, but allowing the body its natural process, allowing life its natural process. And again, inhaling, really letting the fullness of the breath drop into your whole body and being. And a couple more breaths, finding your cadence, your rhythm, your exploration, and your presence. And in each moment, allowing room for all of yourself. The parts you like, the parts you might not like as much. The easy parts, the challenging parts. And even an appreciation for this crazy life. Palms together in front of your heart. And let's inhale for one Om. And stretching your legs forward. Okay, and let's just start on our backs. So, that on the floor. And let's take the arms straight out to the side from the shoulders. Good, letting your feet walk wide. So maybe as wide as your mat, depending on the width of your mat, but letting your body be somewhat in the middle. And let's just play with the leg movement. So letting both legs fall to the right. And then slowly come back up to center and fall to the left. Just feeling the movement in the pelvis and the spine. And back up to center. Knees right. Good, this time putting just a little weight in the feet. Right, allowing the pelvis to turn a little more. And roll back to center and letting the head move, right? Neck is part of the spine. So we are turning, right? As we turn the pelvis, we're turning the whole length of the spine. So letting the head move in response to the neck, whatever that means. Again, knees right, put a little weight in the feet. And letting a little length come into that front left hip. And slowly come back. Notice also what happens in the shoulders and the ribs. Right, as you turn to the left, stepping into that right foot a little, pelvis turns, ribs turn. Again, notice where the head, right, we can very easily hold the head still, but let the head be responsive. One more time, right. Good, and one more time left. Good, and center. Right, I just noticed that my head likes to lead. Right, head's very busy. Let's take the knees to the right. So this time I'm going to take that left arm, trace it along the floor, but I'm going to go up, right, up and over. So I'm going to trace, maybe it floats along the floor, and that's fine, but up towards the wall behind me. So when it's directly overhead, it's reaching away, left hand away from that left knee. So that left front side body starts to get long, and the arm is really going to help me roll the ribs to the right, onto that right shoulder. Maybe the left knee settles. And then let's slowly roll back, keeping that left knee heavy. Left side of the body long. Back side of the body wide and responsive, receptive to the floor. Good, knees come back up to center and knees over to the left. Let's take that right arm up, overhead. Again, tracing either along the floor or hovering above the floor. When it comes overhead, it's directly opposite that knee, feeling front and side. The arm turning the ribs slowly towards the floor. Good, right thigh heavy. And then slowly come back. Good, and knees back to center. Okay, so this time let's use the leg, right? So as the knees fall to the right, left leg's gonna travel, tracing along the floor, around that right leg, towards the right hand, and then slowly back. Again, noticing what the head and neck are doing. Roll onto your back. Knees fall to the left. Right leg traces around that left leg. Reaching those right toes towards the left hand. And then slowly noticing the breath. Right? Notice when you hold the breath. Notice when it gets challenging. What happens? One more time to the right. Left leg traces around the right leg. Again, you can either look to the right hand or look away, whatever most facilitates that leg. And then release. Unwind and come back. And again, knees left, right leg travels, tracing along the floor, around towards the left foot. And release. And come back onto your back. Yay. Okay, let's do one more roll thing. So just in preparation, let's take a block between the thighs. So the middle width, almost like a Pez, between your thighs close to your knees, maybe even arms alongside the body here. And I'm just going to gently hug the block. Again, initiating right and left side, same time. Inner thighs doing most of the work. And slowly relax, letting the pelvis drop back, right? Trying to keep the front hip, back hip pretty quiet, even the outer hip. And then again, slowly hug the block. Good, and relax the weight of the pelvis back, feet back, ribs back. So I'm just gonna walk my feet a little closer to my pelvis so I can really stand in my feet. Hug the block just a little. It's very, very minimal. Again, it's really just to organize the legs so they're moving together, relatively together. So inner feet, right, the big toe and the inner heel stay pretty heavy. And I'm just gonna start to pull the knees, right? And just feel as I pull the knees towards the toes, pulls me into a little bit of a posterior tilt. Let that happen. And then keep pulling the knees and shins past the toes and scoop the pelvis up. Right, so I'm getting a little more length through that front thigh, front hip. And then slowly, slowly, segmentally roll that, the length of the spine down. Middle back, especially that juncture between middle and lower back and the juncture between lower back and sacrum. Right, body will naturally just move towards a little anterior tilt, and then let's do it again. Again, initiating from the legs, pull the knees towards the toes, let that create the posterior tilt. And then keep moving, tailbone towards the pubis, so it almost curls from back body to front body. Scooping the pelvis up, lengthening through the thighs. Right, so most of the initiation and effort is in the lower body. And slowly lower down. Not that the upper body isn't doing anything, it's just not initiating. And slowly lower down. Okay, this time let's take the block out to the side. Good, and arms alongside the body. And walk your feet wide or further out, whatever you need to come up. And the first one might just be a little bit of a trial. So let's press the feet down, same feeling, moving the knees towards the toes, scoop the hips up. That right arm is gonna come up. Left arm's gonna stay on the floor, but the right arm is gonna come up. And I'm gonna keep pressing the hips up. And then I'm gonna keep pressing the hips up. Now I'm gonna lift the whole body up from the knees to the shoulder. And I'm gonna roll onto that left shoulder as I reach that right arm overhead, towards the back wall, towards the floor. And then slowly lower down. Again, organize your feet if they need to be closer or wider, please do. This time, right hand stays on the floor, right arm alongside the body. Press into the feet, knees to the toes, hips up, left arm up. Again, press into the feet, lift the hips, and reach that left arm overhead, towards the wall behind you, towards the floor. Right, we're just rolling from back shoulder, top shoulder, slightly front shoulder, and then slowly roll back down. One more time each side. Press into the feet, send the knees towards the toes, scoop the hips up in that posterior tilt. Reach that right arm up to pull the ribs up and over. Again, rolling from the back of that left shoulder to the top, slightly to the front. And then roll down. One more time, other side. Press into the feet, left arm up. Right knees move to help posteriorly tilt. Keep posteriorly tilting to lift the sitting bones. Reach that left arm up and over to lift the ribs. A little bit of a rotation. And then slowly, slowly lower down. Lower down. And then just notice. Notice what you notice in your body. Stretch the arms out to the side. Let's straighten the legs. Just notice what's more awake. And then bend your knees, roll to your side, and come up to sit. Okay. Feet together. Okay, so feet slightly, I'm teaching a class. Feet slightly in front of the body.
What's good?
There's Mateo. Okay. So I'm in a Baddha Konasana, but rather than the feet close in, the feet are further out. Okay. So hands on the shins, and just for a moment, I'm going to let initiating from my rib cage, I'm going to let my rib cage pull forward to a little bit of an extension, and then let the ribs pull back into flexion, and let the tailbone scoop down and move towards the feet and the head drop. Again, I'm just initiating from the rib cage, from the middle back, ribs forward, pubis drops, eyes lift, little extension, and then ribs back, middle of the back, or between the shoulder blades back, tailbone curls forward, head drops. And ribs forward, pubis drops, face lifts, extension, last time, flexion. And then let's do one initiating from the pelvis. So come back through center. So sending your sitting bones back as your breastbone moves forward and up and eyes up. And then curl tailbone down, right? Feel the pelvis initiate that posterior tilt, right? Making a little more movement through the lower back, then into the middle back, then neck and head. Tailbone down to the floor, back towards the back of the room, sending the lower back forward, middle back forward, eyes up. Last time, because it feels good. Tailbone down and forward. Let that lower back round. Middle back, upper back, head drops. And then come back to center. Okay, so then let's take our left foot and put it on the floor, just to the outside, right? Not too close, not too far, and straighten that right leg. Good, maybe the hands behind you for a moment, and just feel that nice big stretch in the inner thighs. And I'm going to take right hand to the floor, left arm up to the ceiling. And then switch left hand down, right arm up. And as I take that right arm up, really reaching through that right leg. And then right hand down. It's going to be just slightly behind. So I can take that left arm up and over. So I'm going to let my left sitting bone come off the floor as I tip over that right leg. Left butt off the floor, right butt on the floor, right hamstring on the floor. Good, and come up. Left hand slightly behind, right arm up and over. Again, right sitting bone is heavy, left sitting bone is heavy. And come up. So I'm going to bend that left leg now. Both hands behind. Just so you can feel yourself up on your sitting bones. And if you're rolling back, you can put something under even just under your tailbone to prop yourself up so you can stay somewhat on your sitting bones, the center. And then let's take the right arm to the inside of the right leg, left arm up to the ceiling and over. Again, let that left sitting bone get light. Lean over that right leg. And then come up, left hand to the floor, right arm up to the ceiling. Maybe walk that left arm out. Maybe the elbow comes towards the floor, maybe even to the floor. Reach, get long through that right side of the body. And coming up. One more time, right hand down, left arm up and over. Again, I'm going to let my pelvis tip with me. Left sitting bone lifts just a little. And then come up to center. And switch. So left leg straightens. Right leg is going to bend. Okay, so left hand slightly behind, just so you don't fall. You don't have to work quite so hard. Right arm up and over. So right sitting bone is really going to lift. I'm just going to lay over that left leg as much as I can. And then come up, right hand behind, left arm up to the ceiling. And that right sitting bone gets heavy. But we're asking a lot of the inner thigh, the groin, top of the thigh. Where do you feel it? And then switch again, left hand down, right arm up. So again, you can bring the forearm to the floor. You can walk the hand forward, lay over that left leg. And come up, right hand down, left arm up. Long through the side body. And come up. So right leg now bends in front. Good, left hand towards the left ankle, right arm up towards the ceiling. So it can be against the knee, inner thigh. So as I press the arm into the leg and leg into the arm, it gives me a little stability. So I'm not falling forward, but take that right arm up and over. Right hip can lift. Again, fold over that left leg. Keep lifting the right hip, and then maybe play with dropping the right hip. Feel what that does through that right side of the waist. And then come up, right hand to the floor. Maybe the elbow to the floor. Maybe left arm up and over. And just feeling that release through the side body. So we're trying to create space from at the hip joint, so base of the pelvis and its relationship to the femur, and the top of the pelvis in relationship to the waist muscles, the abdominals. And come up, left hand down, right arm up and over. Again, let that right sitting bone lift, tip to that left leg. And then come up, right hand down, left arm up. Maybe the right forearm comes to the floor this time. Maybe. So even here, my left sitting bone's off the floor. And then maybe I try to think about sitting that left sitting bone back on the floor. And then come up. Okay, let's bend both knees. Stretch the legs forward for a moment. Okay, so almost back where we started, but up on hands, feet wide. And I'm just going to let my knees fall to the right. And letting that left thigh sink towards the floor. And away, knee away from the hip. So I'm feeling a stretch through the inner thigh, inner groin. And then knees up to center and knees over to the left. Again, knees towards the floor, especially that right knee, right thigh. Good, one more breath here. Stretching the right knee away as it turns into the floor. Don't feel as much through here. Oh, if I bring my right hip down, I do. Look at that. So the right hip can turn to the left, or maybe drop it back to the floor, but without lifting the knee. And knee up to center, and both knees over to the right. Again, I'm going to let the pelvis turn to the right. And then let that left hip come back to the floor without lifting that left knee. Good, and knees up to center. One more time, knees to the left. Pelvis lifts and turns to the right. Or sorry, left, right. And then dropping that right hip back to the floor without lifting that right knee. Good, and then both knees come up. Okay, Baddha Konasana. Feet together, knees apart. Good, knees up, walk the feet wide, drop the knees together. Good, one more time, feet together, knees apart. Again, listen to your body. Knees up, feet wide, knees towards the center line. Maybe flex the feet so there's less rotation at the knee, right? Depends on how much movement you have in your knee. And then knees up. Okay, so now I'm going to take both legs out. Upavista Konasana. Just for a moment, just to feel that. And hands behind. Good. Okay, let's bend that left leg again. This time take the leg behind. So I'm going to start with my left foot close to my hip. And if this doesn't feel right, then put the foot in the front, the way we did before. Okay. And again, right hand on the inside, tipping towards that right leg, left sitting bone off the floor, left arm up. So I'm pressing that right arm into the leg, leg into the arm so I can turn and look up towards that left arm, left hand. Left arm comes alongside the ear. Good, and then maybe try to drop that left sitting bone to the floor. Okay, and then let's turn the belly towards the right thigh, round the back. Let's take that left hand on the inside of the right leg, right hand on the outside, and keep turning the belly towards that right leg. Just letting your breath spread those back ribs. Right, feeling the width of the back, the length of the back. Good. Right hand on the outside of the leg stays there, left arm back up and over. Again, maybe left sitting bone towards the floor and come up. Good. Let's pick up that left knee, step on the foot, and then extend that left leg. Bend that right leg. Bend. So I'm stepping on the foot just to help align the knee in this deep bend so that as I rotate and bring the foot back, the movement comes from the hip joint, not so much from the knee. Okay, left hand inside, pressing hand into foot, foot into hand, right arm up. Again, use the limbs, that left arm and leg, to turn the rib cage towards the ceiling. Right arm up and over. And that right sitting bone's off the floor. I'm just going to lean over that left leg. Good. Maybe the sitting bone to the floor just for a moment. And then, doesn't matter what the right sitting bone is doing, probably lifting. Let's turn the right hand towards the floor, turn the belly towards the left thigh. Little bit of rotation, little bit of flexion. Maybe walk the hands towards the feet. Maybe. Breathing, letting that back body receive more breath, more movement. Right, as if the ribs could spread away from the spine on the inhale. Left hand stays now on the outside of that left leg, right arm up and over again. Again, right sitting bones off the floor, and then maybe settle it towards the floor, and then come up. Good. Pick up that right knee. Again, deep bend. Step on the foot. And then right leg out to the side. Good. And hopefully this is a little bit easier. Okay. One more time. Let's bend that left knee. So stepping on the foot. Again, foot is as close to the thigh as I comfortably can. So the rotation happens at the hip joint. And then I'm going to play, since we've been oiling up the hips a little bit, I am going to play with taking that foot, flexing it, but just slightly away from. And again, listen to your body. Listen to what is accessible. This is a lot to ask. So closer to the hip if you need, further out if you need, pointing or flexing. Right hand inside, right leg, left arm up to the ceiling. So left sitting bone's off the floor. There's very little weight on that left leg. Left arm up and overhead. And then turning the belly towards the floor, belly button towards the top of that right thigh. Again, hands on the floor. So there's a little more pressing into that right hand to help turn the ribs. Right, a little bit of flexion, little rotation, letting your breath help. Soften, find space, find access into that back body. Good. Right hand on the floor, outside, left arm up again and over. Good. And then just now we're just going to come up. Good. And then pull the left foot close to the knee. Left foot on the floor. Extend out. Bend the right leg. Step on the foot. Nice close. Fold in that leg. Right foot behind. Again, if you want to play with taking the foot further out, right, it just is asking a lot more movement in the hip. So you find what your end range is. Left arm inside, right arm up and over. Right hip is off the floor. Very little weight in that right leg. Good. And then turning towards the left leg. Rotation, flexion, breath. A little more weight down into that left arm. Breath longer. Neck long. Good. Left hand outside the leg. Right arm up to the ceiling and again over. And then slowly come up to sit and just even that transition. What are you asking of that right hip? And then pulling the foot closer in, knee up. And extend that leg out. Oh, okay. So hands behind for a moment. And we're just going to think about, I'm just going to think about externally rotating the right leg. These are not big movements, but I'm going to turn the inner thigh towards the outer thigh. So the kneecap is going to turn towards the outer wall. And as I do that, the left thigh is going to turn in. The kneecap is going to turn towards you. And then the opposite, sit both sitting bones down and switch. Maybe the hand switch, left hand outside of the left leg, right hand inside. I'm going to externally rotate that left leg, internally rotate that right leg. And come back to center. One more time, right side. And center. And one more time, left side. Good, and center. Nice, and then bend the knees. So I'm going to start in Baddha Konasana, right? Both legs are externally rotated. And then I'm going to take left knee up, left knee behind. So now my left thigh is internally rotated, right? The face, the top face of the thigh is turning forward, and the top face of the thigh on the right leg is turning back. Ideally, both sitting bones on the floor. And if that feels impossible, then slide a blanket under both. Good. Nice. So hands on either side of that right leg. And let's just play turning. So I'm just going to let my breastbone lead, but I'm going to let my left hip follow. So the left hip's going to peel off the floor and turn to the right. Again, if that feels at all compromising in your sacrum, then keep the sitting bone down. And then lifting through the whole center line, through the spinal column, crown of head, turn, look to the right. Keep that turn, and I'm just going to slowly lower that left sitting bone towards the floor. And then slowly release back to center. Now turning left. All right, so both hands on either side of the left leg. Now left sitting bone is heavy. I'm gonna turn, right hip can't really left and follow, but I'm gonna lengthen through the whole center line and turn to the left. Lift and turn. Maybe both thighs get heavy. Right thigh, shin, left thigh and shin. And back to center. One more time to the right. Left hip lifts if it feels good. Lift and turn. Again, let's start from the hip. Left hip starts to come down to the floor. And then let the rest of the body follow. And then turning left. Long through the spinal column. Heavy through the thighs. Lift and turn. And come back to center. Okay, so leaning back, I'm just going to pick both knees up, come into Baddha Konasana for a moment, and then pick up the right leg. Same feeling, right foot close to the thigh, internally rotate. And again, if your internal rotators have a harder time, because we don't do this very often in the world, then put a blanket under both sitting bones. And it will be different side to side, because that's how we are. So one hand on either side of that left leg, right hip's gonna follow, lift and turn to the left. Again, keep the hip low if you need to, and just turn without the side bend. And slowly let the right hip get heavy. Come back to center. Both hands either side of the right leg. Lift and turn. Right, the thighs get heavy so the whole center line can lift. And center, hands on either side of the left leg. Lift and turn. Right, whether that right hip comes up or not doesn't matter, but can you lengthen through, especially the neck, through the sides of the body, and then heavy in that right hip, slowly release and turning to the right. Right hip is heavy, thigh is heavy. And come back to center. Leaning back, let's just pick the right knee up, come back to Baddha Konasana. Yay. One more time, let's take the legs out to the side. Just because we can. Good. And let's take hands either side of that right leg. Simple turn towards the right leg. And then I'm just going to let my hands trace forward and around to the left leg. And really letting the rib cage turn, the waist turn to the left leg. Maybe reach that right arm towards the left foot and then around to the right foot. Left arm follows. Good, belly turns to the right leg. Left arm reaches to the right foot and then again slides around to the left leg. Turn to the left leg. One more time, each side. Turn to the right leg, say hello, and then turn, come back to the left leg, and say hello. Good, center, knees up, stretch the legs forward. Yay. Okay, that was a lot on the inner legs. So, well, all right, let's just do one thing for a counterbalance. So, lay back on your back. Let's take the right ankle on your left thigh, just above your kneecap. And then I'm going to slide above the ankle bone, just a little bit up the shin. Right, almost halfway, like a nice low sock. I'm just going to slowly draw the left knee towards the chest. So I'm going to slide my right arm between the right thigh and the left thigh, grab the shin, Left arm comes around the left leg. Grab the shin, maybe interlace the fingers around the shin if you can. If you can't, if the leg's not that close, then grab behind the thigh with your fingers. And then using your breath and gravity. So I am going to play with flexing that right foot and then pointing. So ideally, the legs just keep sinking back to the floor. So whether the arms are straight, hopefully they're straight, let the upper arms sink back to the shoulder blades back to the floor. So there's not a lot of pulling, there's just a sense of heavy architecture of the arms supporting the left leg. And then flex that right foot again and point. And let's make a big circle at the ankle with the right foot, spreading, fanning those toes. Change direction. Good. And then I'm just going to pause, maybe in a point, and I'm just going to play with just tipping some weight to my left. Right, so a little more weight on the left hip and letting that left knee, right, because as I was noticing, that left knee was starting to lean to the right side of the body. So now I'm just going to bring that left leg over the left side of the body and maybe flex that right foot and maybe lean a little further out, just towards the outer arm, outer shoulder, maybe. I'm not quite there, I'm just towards the outer arm, kind of inner arm of the outer arm. And just breathe. Again, maybe a circle at the ankle. Good, and then slowly release. Feet on the floor. Other side, so left ankle on that right thigh, just above the knee, and then I'm going to go above the ankle, and maybe even a little higher up. Low casual sock. Almost mid-chin, and then right knee comes up. Again, left arm comes between left thigh and right thigh. Neither grabs the thigh or both hands interlace around the shin. I'm just noticing the difference, this side and the other side. They will be different. You may not know how, but they are different. Good, and again, because there is more tightness in the hip on the left side than the right side, because I'm asking for it, my right knee is going to start to follow the left leg. So I'm just going to slowly try to maintain that right leg where it is. Again, very little effort through the arms. It's more just letting the weight of the arms support the leg. And then just slowly guide the leg back or over to the right. So there's more weight now, right thigh over the right hip. Good. And maybe even, let's just play with dropping the sitting bones and the tailbone towards the floor. I was feeling like I was up on the upper right hip. So now as I just drop or even just gently coax the sitting bones and tailbone to the floor, I feel a little more weight come down into the back of the hip. And go ahead and point with the left foot and flex and point and flex. Big circle at the ankle. Change direction. Good, pause again, a little more to the right, towards that right inner arm. bicep, maybe even the outer arm, depending on your body. One more time, flex, point, big circle, change. Good, maybe even try to move the thighs away from each other, just gently. Good, and then both feet back to the floor. Yay. Okay. All right, let's do one last thing. So we're actually going to take our mat, our blanket rather. So hopefully you have a firm blanket. So blanket, if you don't, you can roll up your sticky mat. I'm just going to take one end of my blanket, pick it up, do a little accordion pleat. So there's some height. Again, helps if there's density to your blanket or mat or towel. Good, blocks in front, just a little. So just for one moment, I'm going to stand at one end of my blanket so that I can have the right, so I'm on the left side of my blanket, so I can have the right foot up on the blanket, the ball of the foot, and the right heel on the floor. And then I'm going to step that left foot parallel to the right, but the left foot's on the floor, right foot's not. Good, and maybe just shift my weight to my left foot. I know I don't have very much in my head, and shift to my right foot. Good, and then I'm gonna take that left foot and step it forward. And that depends on your body, how much you can step it forward. I just took a little step. And so then I'm just gonna shift my weight towards my left leg, which is slightly forward, so it's forward and left, and back and right, and forward and left. And then maybe try to shift more just straight to the right. So I'm still forward on the foot. And maybe just do a little side to side without going forward and back. Just getting into that little toe, outer foot, outer calf. Good, and then step back. And let's do the other leg. So walk to the right side of your blanket, left foot, forefoot, the front of the foot, the ball of the foot up on the blanket. Start with the feet parallel, so right foot's flat, left foot's up on a surface. And just shifting to the right, shifting to the left. Maybe lift all 10 toes and then maybe lower them just so you notice how much you're holding your feet as you do this. And then step that right foot forward. Again, doesn't have to be very far. This side is much tighter than the other side for me. So I'm just shifting forward and right, back and left. Forward and right. Slowly back and left. And then maybe just side to side. So on this leg, I feel very different. I feel more sensation on the left inner thigh, and on the other leg, I felt more sensation on the outer lower leg. And just notice, soften, use your breath. Let your movements be slow enough to allow you to soften, your breath be full enough, rich enough to allow some kind of melty squishiness come into the tissue. And then step back. Okay, I have my blocks in front of my blanket, so I can step both feet up onto the blanket. And then fold over, hands on blocks. Okay, so you can turn the blocks down if you're not getting much sensation. We're just trying different things. We're not necessarily looking for a lot of action, we're really just looking for softening. Softening the patterns of overworking. So now I'm going to bend my knees just ever so slightly, like just to get to some of the layers closer to the bone. Maybe lift the toes, spread the toes. Maybe set the toes back on the blanket. Maybe roll towards the inner feet. And roll towards the outer feet. And maybe notice what side is harder. So the one gift of doing one foot at a time is you really get to see, right? Sometimes when we're doing both feet, it's hard to differentiate which foot is tight, where, because we're feeling the sensation of both at the same time. Good, come back to center, straighten the legs, shift the weight back a little, shift the weight forward. Maybe even do a circle. Let's take the weight to the right and back and left and forward. Big circle with the hips around the feet, and then change direction. Forward, left, back, right, forward. Okay, shift your weight back into your legs. Slowly come up to stand. Stand, right? Let the hips come under the shoulders. Spread the feet. Spread the toes. Maybe lift the toes again, just so you feel the engagement of the top of the foot. And then relax. Try to soften the top of the foot as the toes settle down. Good, and then step back. Okay, before you do anything, just feel that. Okay, last one. Stretch out your blanket, bring it behind you. So top of the right foot on the floor. Good, so I'm on my toenail side of the foot. Whoop. Good, and you get to monitor how much weight you put in that foot. So, right, if I stand pretty tall and that right leg is somewhat straight, I have a fair amount of weight in that right foot. But if that's intense, back up till it feels accessible. Again, when the tissue starts to soften, that's when you know you're in the right zone. Roll towards inner foot. Little toe side of foot. Inner foot. Little toe side of foot. Good, right foot forward, left foot back. Good, roll to big toe side of foot. Little toe side. Again, slow enough, breath is able to move, sensations not too intense, and your body's able to soften into it. And left foot forward. And then just notice your feet. Okay, good. All right, so we could do that one more time, but we won't. Top of the feet really work hard. We don't realize, we think of the bottom of the feet as doing all the work, when the top of the feet are often more stressed, strained, fixed. Okay, sometimes have deeper patterns. All right, so we're just gonna roll a little. So if you are on a hard surface and you wanna lay your sticky mat along your mat, you can. Okay, so feet on the floor. Hips heavy. Again, body's in, just allow that little bit of anterior tilt. And as you posterior tilt, right, as the top of the sacrum comes to the floor and the tailbone gets light, and the heels get light. Peel the knees up towards the chest, feet up towards the ceiling. Try to scoop the back of the pelvis off the floor. And then as it comes back to the floor, keep the waist heavy, toe tips down, heels down. Let's do that again. So rolling up the length of the pelvis, tailbone gets light, heels get light. I'm in a posterior tilt, but I'm going to keep curling the tailbone towards the pubic bone towards the belly. Maybe bring the arms overhead and let the pelvis scoop the legs up and over. Maybe. And then roll the spine down. Waist heavy as the knees bend, toes come down, heels come down. Again, and a little bit of an anterior tilt. Posterior tilt starts to lift the heels, scoop the tailbone towards the pubis, let the toes lift, the knees lift, pull the knees towards the nose as the pelvis rolls up. Legs overhead, maybe the toes come towards the hands. And then slowly roll the spine down, waist heavy as the toes come down, heels come down. Last one, from your anterior tilt, posterior tilt, keep scooping the tailbone, right? Pulling, right, across the length of the pelvic floor towards the pubis, pubis to the navel, knees to the nose, legs overhead towards the hands. And slowly lower down, toes down, heels down. Let's do one more time just so you feel the difference. Arms alongside the body. Again, little anterior, little posterior. So again, tailbone towards pubis, but you can use the arms to help you scoop the pelvis up and to slowly lower the spine down. One is not better or worse. They're just different. Okay, so I'm just going to take my blanket, roll it up, put it under my thighs. If you have a second blanket that you would like to put on your pelvis and abdominal organs to keep you warm, you can do that. Okay, maintaining the heat in your body, maintaining that level of circulation or fluidity or softness. Good, either arms alongside the body, palms down or palms up, or on the body. Let your legs roll out. Let your face soften. Back of the body sinking into the floor. And just allowing, right, the back of the body tends to be more of our kind of animal body protective, like the spine, ribs protecting the spinal cord inside, the organs inside. The skull, right, back of the pelvis is much more solid than the front. Right, so just allowing that protective quality to settle, to soften, to just acknowledge it, that there's a certain need for it. And then allowing it just at this moment to soften into the surface behind. Right, and it is interesting that we lay with the vulnerable parts facing outward. Like all of our organs and the more sensitive skin. But in a sense, receiving whatever nourishment is available to you. Sunlight, maybe the acknowledgement of your friends, your pets, flowers, right? Things that help you feel open, soft, tender, and vulnerable in a delicious way. Feeling your kindness, your softness, your care. And just keep melting back as if you were on warm sand or in a warm patch of sunny meadow. Feeling received, seen, held, cherished. And then still connected to that deepening feeling, that unfolding of that feeling. Just a little movement through your fingers and toes. So as it continues to unfold, as you start to move, how can you weave it into your day? Gently, gently roll to your side and come up to sit. And feeling the richness, the fullness of your breath, the fullness of your body and being.